these in those classes, and maybe put 4 or 5 people together and make them available to the to people who are studying finance that are kind of struggling.
Yeah, and the STEM Center has a lot of good options too. But yeah, building off that, hi Sophie, how are you doing?
I'm good. Hi, everyone.
Nice to have
David.
you
Hi,
back.
Souza. Thank you. Thank you for having me. I'm really excited to be here.
Thank you so much for all the support, Sophie.
Of course. I always come back to the finance club.
But yeah, again, I appreciate you coming out and taking the time out of your day, especially because it's Friday. I know you probably got better things to do. But yeah, thank you so much.
Oh, of course.
Yeah, she could be drinking beer.
Yeah, you're right. It's 5 o'clock somewhere. Where are you, Souza? Are you drinking a beer?
I am in a place called the Trailhead. It does have beer here, but I got to wait until after my 5 o'clock meeting this afternoon. I'm just holding out, but yeah, it's like right there.
There you go. It's almost there. It's almost there.
Got tunnel vision right now.
Yeah,
right?
Gotta stay focused. Gotta stay sober.
But yeah, we are recording the meeting, so our plan is that we're gonna like try to publish this as a podcast on our financial or on our finance club website, which would be the first podcast. So thank you for being on the podcast.
Yay, I'm excited.
But yeah, I think for all the people listening who don't know about the Federal Reserve yet, I would love a little explanation if you could provide one.
Yes, awesome. Okay, I did create a little bit of a PowerPoint. I didn't know if this was going to be a podcast. Like, I could share the PowerPoint, or like if you wanted to like throw some questions at me. I didn't know how should we go about the podcast / meeting.
If you want to throw the PowerPoint, that's fine too. But we have questions prepared. We'll throw them out if that works. But yeah.
Okay, perfect. So I was going off the questions that you sent me.
Yeah.
Because I wanted to just going off the questions because some of them were applicable to me and then some of them weren't, and I just wanted to like organize my thoughts. So whatever you guys are up for. Should I share my screen then?
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah. Perfect. All right, can you guys see my screen?
Yeah.
Awesome. Perfect. There we go. Okay, first off, I want to say thank you so much for having me on today's meeting. I just wanted to start off by giving a little overview of kind of what I set out in today's presentation, just a little bit about me, my time at St. Mary's. I also wanted to give a general overview of the Federal Reserve System, and then talk about my current role and what I do within the Federal Reserve. Also, I would like to preface that I am not a formal person, so if there is something that needs clarification or any additional information you'd like me to expand on, please feel free to unmute or just like raise your hand. Not meant to be a formal presentation.
Perfect, thank you.
Of course. So a little bit about me. I grew up in Brentwood, California. It's about 45 minutes from St. Mary's. I graduated in 2022. And I've been with the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco for about a year and a half as a financial analyst. And then I did one summer internship in the summer of 2020. And I currently live in San Francisco. My time at St. Mary's, I majored in business administration, and I concentrated in finance and business analytics. I also minored in computer science. I was involved with the investment group and finance club. And during my time at St. Mary's, I had 2 internships. One in the summer of 2020, I did a sales internship selling life insurance. And then again, in the summer of 2021, I did bank examinations with the Federal Reserve Bank of San Francisco. And I'll go more into a deeper dive of like what supervision and credit is and what bank examinations entail. I wanted to kind of discuss my like going from school to internships to careers. I feel like that reflecting on my time, like how did I go transition from like classes at St. Mary's to an internship, and then taking that and transitioning it into a full-time career. I think my biggest advice, or one thing that I did, was get involved very early, whether it be clubs. And it also doesn't have to be finance or business related. I think just showing that you have an interest of something outside of school and schoolwork uh, speaks a lot. Um, One thing that I did early on was researching job postings on LinkedIn and kind of flagging and kind of understanding what the skills that these job postings required, and asking myself, how can I acquire these skills at St. Mary's, whether it be through school, um, whether it be through clubs or any of like the extracurricular activities that SIBA puts on. And I also asked myself, like, how can I show that I've acquired these skills? And that's how I leveraged some of the classes, some of the projects from my classes and the clubs from in the investment group and in the finance club on my resume. And that really kind of gave me something to talk about during interviews, or something to like kind of fill my resume with, other than just classes. And I was very specific on those projects and expanding how I was able to develop the skills, and like how I can apply those to the organizations that I was applying to. I also highlighted interview skills. I think that is one skill that is very underrated when applying for internships or even a career. Um, Being able to understand your why and explain that very clearly, of why you're applying for this job or why you want this role or internship. And also being able to clearly, concisely explain your projects and basic financial concepts with confidence goes a long way. And I think that speaks almost louder than the hard skills that you may think that an intern or a organization may want. And also, don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't overthink. I think a lot of the times people read job postings and they think to themselves that I'm not qualified, or um, I need to wait till I'm a junior or sophomore to apply. I think being able just to like send it out there, you're going to get a lot of feedback, and you'll kind of figure out through trial and error of what works and like what you should and should not put on a resume. And kind of just constantly revising your resume to like what fits. And yeah, I wanted to pause there. I feel like I've been speaking a lot, and I want to see if there's any questions. And let me know if I'm talking too fast.
No, yeah, everything's been perfect. Thank you so much.
Okay, good.
I do have a few questions.
Yes.
First one, you were part of the investment club and finance club. Which one do you think was more helpful for your resume?
Both. I don't think I could have leveraged one or the other more. I did like the investment group because they gave you specific projects to work on, which again, I leveraged that on my resume and talked a lot about that on my resume. But I don't do anything with investments now. So I don't use like the skills that I acquired in the investment group. I don't necessarily use now. But then also, one thing I loved about the finance club is that they exposed you to different areas of finance. Susan brought in a lot of financial professionals that like exposed me to sales or to FP&A or wealth management. And that kind of gave me an understanding of which path to go down, or at least which areas interested me and I'd like to explore.
Perfect. Thank you. And then
Yeah.
regarding your sales internship, I know sales has a lot of like soft and hard skills for you to kind of math, and like those are very important skills, especially entering the business world. How important do you think that was for like your development as a professional?
Ooh. I think it helped me understand what I did and did not like. I realized that I wanted to go down a more analytical route. I realized that I thought I liked sales because I thought I was able to talk to people and I love talking to people, but I realized that I didn't want a client facing role. That's just me personally. So it helped me through trial and error and like process of elimination of like, okay, I went down this path and I didn't really, wasn't for me. So let me try something else. And that helped me pivot to like different areas that helped me explore.
Perfect. Okay. Thank
Yeah.
you. And, we've had like a lot of events lately, like the Meet the Firms event, mock interviews, the Excel workshops. How important do you think those are to attend, especially like for freshmen coming into St. Mary's?
Very important. The Excel, you said an Excel workshop?
Yeah.
Yes, very important. I think that is like one skill that if I had to like go back and learn again or just like perfect while at school, is like my Excel. I use Excel every single day. It's not like you have to have perfect Excel skills when you come onto the job, but I definitely think if you have perfected your Excel skills in school, it just sets you apart and just ahead of the game when you start full-time work. So Excel is a very big skill that I like highlighted in my presentation. You have to know Excel.
Perfect. And I think that leads to my last question. How good at, or yeah, how impactful do you think a data science or computer programming minor is when you could like get a major in maybe accounting or double major in two business majors? How important do you think data science and computer programming was for you?
Ooh, that's a good question. I definitely think the business analytics concentration helped me a lot, um, because I had to take classes in Excel and Python. I personally don't use Python, or excuse me, I meant Python and SQL. I personally don't use Python and SQL in my course, just because the way, not my course, my my job, my full-time role. Um, just because that's my team doesn't operate with SQL and we don't pull information from databases. But I do know I have other friends in the private industry who do similar work and they pull information using SQL from databases. So I think it was just good for me to be exposed to SQL and how to code in Python. That way, it's just in my back pocket for when I do perhaps find myself needing to pull information from a database. I know where to go and I have the skills to pull from, and it's not learning something completely foreign on the job. So I think it's good exposure to have um, data science and being able to manipulate large sets of data. Um, I think it's very valuable, and I would definitely recommend someone adding that on to their major or as a concentration if they're able to.
Perfect. Thank you. Yeah. Anyone else has any questions, please feel free to ask.
Yeah, feel free to ask.
I have a question. So
course.
you're talking about your sales internship, and
Mhm,
it's not exactly what you're in right now.
mhm.
It's pretty different. When looking for internships and job, do you think it's you said you got some skills from there, so do you recommend just applying to a wider range of internships that might not exactly be what you want to do, but even if you do get it, you might be able to get some skills, or do you think you should focus more on internships that could maybe lead to a job that you're interested in or the career you're interested in?
Yeah, I definitely I mean, I think if you know that you don't wanna go into sales right off the bat, like,
Yeah.
don't maybe I wouldn't apply to, like, something in sales, but if you're very, like, "I don't know where to start," or "I'm very open to learning about new jobs," I think applying and seeing what takes you and where your application goes, I think that is really important. And then, like I said, it helps with process of elimination because you may end up somewhere, that you're like, "Oh, I didn't know that was interesting." And also, if you didn't like that internship, you can leverage that into your next internship that you have full-time work experience in a corporate setting. It may not have been something that you wanted to, but now you have your why of why you want to go into something else.
Mhm. Another thing is, so you're
Yeah.
talking about how important Excel work is for
Mhm.
I was wondering if there are any other major programs online that you think would be useful in your job, or any, like, if you know any that you've been recommended.
Yeah, are you talking more about stuff to take outside of school or maybe to take inside of like classes?
Both, I guess.
Both. Um, I guess maybe like LinkedIn Learning. I would also like to preface that I feel like St. Mary's does prep you very well with the material. So I don't really feel like I had to take any supplemental courses while in school to like fill in gaps. It's more just knowing that there's a sequel course and taking that, and that will expose you. And maybe as like an elective or power like Tableau, or if there's a Power BI course, I definitely recommend adding that to your schedule, even if your major or concentration doesn't require it. I think that exposure is very helpful. Um, I hope that answers your question.
Oh yeah. I think that's all the questions I have for now.
Awesome.
Anyone else has any?
I think that's good. But
Okay, awesome. Great. And again, if any questions come up as I continue to talk on and on, please let me know. Feel free to pause. So the next portion that I wanted to go into was more giving just a general spiel about the Federal Reserve System. I definitely have learned a lot more now working at the Federal Reserve compared to just like being in college, and like I didn't really understand how vast the Federal Reserve System is and the impact that the Federal Reserve has on our economy. Just a quick overview, the Federal Reserve System comprises of 12 banks plus the Board of Governors, and you can see on my right side of the bank, or not the bank, the right side of my slide, the 12 banks sit across the United States with the Board of Governors sitting in Washington, D.C. And I work for the 12th district, which is San Francisco. And it's just broken. There's a huge story of why they're broken up weird. It's based off of like territories and economic considerations, but it's kind of weird how the Federal Reserve System is broken up, but it gives you kind of an idea of the map of like where each bank sits. And yeah, the 12 banks run independently of each other with guidance from the Board of Governors. The Board of Governors consists of 7 people, and I'm assuming you've heard of Jerome Powell. He is the one who gives all of the updates on interest rates and the open market committee updates, right? And the open market committee are the ones that make decisions of raising interest rates, and that consists of 12 individuals, the 7 Board of Governors, the New York president, and then the other 3 seats go to they rotate every other year, and it's between the 11 other presidents that are across the Federal Reserve System. The Federal Reserve System has 5 key functions, and I'm just going to read it from the bottom: conducting the nation's monetary policy. Again, that's what you hear on the news. That's like all the cool, interesting economic research and updating on interest rates. The second part is maintaining the stability of the financial system. I think that falls into the regulatory side. Again, they kind of work hand in hand. And that is the area that I sat in during my internship doing bank examinations. Essentially, I shadowed commissioned bank examiners who went into banks and just essentially made sure that the banks had their P's and Q's together, that they weren't, that they had enough assets to cover their risks and their liabilities. And just again, making sure that there isn't a repeat of 2008 or anything too crazy. The fourth function is fostering payment and settlement systems safety and efficiently. That is where I currently sit. I can go more into detail in the next slide of what that is and how my current role sits in there. And then again, promoting consumer protection and community development. I will pause there and see if there are any questions. And I'd also like to preference that this is all taken from, again, the Federal Reserve website, and I can drop resources in the chat after the meeting.
I think I'm good for now. I don't know if anyone
Okay.
has questions.
Yeah, if there are any questions?
Yeah, I think I'm good too.
Okay, awesome. All right. So a little bit about my current role. I'm a financial analyst, and in short terms, I do financial planning and analysis for the Federal Reserve Financial Services. And this is a national business line that sits across all 12 banks, meaning that all 12 banks essentially work together in providing financial services to financial institutions. So I like to describe this as when you go to the bank, your bank provides you check services, a checkings account, a savings account, access to Zelle, right? We provide similar financial services, but just to the financial institutions, such as FedWire. This is how financial institutions transfer money to each other, or they transfer securities between the United States into themselves, or to vice versa. Cash, they put in orders through us and we send them cash. Just again, I will drop the website if you wanted to research more about the different financial services that the Fed provides. It's very, very interesting. But as for me, I essentially translate numbers into a digestible story to inform stakeholders. Stakeholders are essentially just officers or executives across the financial reserves, FRFS financial, Federal Reserve Financial Services of the business's financial health. So I inform people, or like I said, stakeholders of what's going on with the business and how strategic decisions impact the financial health and what our financials are going to look like in the long run. And this consists of assisting with yearly budgets or calculating outer year forecasts, updating reoccurring monthly financial reports, something what I like to call situational analysis. Sometimes an officer or an executive will kind of say like, hey, if we make this decision, what are our financials going to look like in 5 years, 10 years? And we have to be able to come up with that on a pretty quick turnaround and be able to kind of guide them and whether or not this is a good decision and how it impacts our financials. A lot of ad hoc requests. Again, this is when officers come to us and say like, hey, I need this information from you, and this is just like a one-time request and I need it by the end of the day or by the end of the week. Yeah, so I think that's kind of like what comes up with what makes up my day-to-day work. A lot of my work comes with relationship management, meaning if an officer comes with me with a question, I need to be able to really quickly know where I can go get that information and who I can go ask to get that information. And that's where soft skills come in, being able to build a network of like around the bank and around the system to gather information. And again, this goes with any job in FP&A. Being able to understand the organization that you work in and where you can find this information is very big. And there was one question that I received, like, what's the main difference between working at like the central government or a bank compared to like a JP Morgan or a bank in the private sector? And within FP&A, one thing that's different between the Federal Reserve and just in general any company in the sector, and then the private sector, is the Federal Reserve does not focus on profits. We are in a cost recovery method, meaning that essentially it's just we spend $100, we need to make $100 back in our fees. So I don't do any profit and loss analysis, and I do know that if you were to go work in corporate finance at a private company, that's a key factor in decision makings and your work. And I will pause there, see if there are any questions.
Yeah, so you mentioned soft skills like building up a network. What other soft skills do you think are like necessary for your role?
Ooh, I think not being afraid to put yourself out there, and setting up one-on-ones with officers and being able to talk to someone who has 10 plus years of experience and being able to introduce yourself, and again, having the confidence to be able to inform them of decisions. I think that can be very nerve-wracking. So I think confidence, to understanding that you're requesting something of someone, like a piece of information, and you have to be able to ask them in a kind way, and you have to like be able to understand that you're asking them of something for you to help you and answer your question. So just being able to set up one-on-ones and build that network, so when you do have to reach out to them, they're happy to help you.
Perfect.
Yeah.
What economic indicators do you rely on as a financial analyst, like to determine the state of our economy? Like, is there anything that you kind of like nitpick and look at?
Yeah, so I wouldn't say that I don't use economic indicators. Again, this is more just like driving a business line. I would say that's what FP&A work is. And this is applicable to any corporation a large corporation that needs financial planning and analysis. So it's more just understanding the business's strategic initiatives and their growth rate over time, and their essentially the business's goals. It's and like I said, this could be anything. This could be from profits that they're driving. If we need to make profits, that's our goal. What leverages do we need to pull in order to meet that goal? So I wouldn't say I use really any economic drivers. It's more just understanding the business's goals and how to get there, and then the impacts of those goals on their financials.
Got it. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Are there any other questions at this part?
I have a question. So I was
Yes.
wondering, how does international economic activity impact what you do at San Francisco and impact your job specifically?
Nothing.
Okay,
Does
no,
not impact
okay.
anything.
Yeah.
I do not do any economic research work, any economic, I had, like, my work does not touch anything with the economy or that you hear in the news. Again, it's more just being able to provide these financial services to financial institutions, and being able to do that in a matter of, yeah, no economic.
Yeah.
But I can point you to some resources that the Fed has online that I think could maybe answer that question. And I also drop, after the presentation's done, kind of like a little overview of like what what FRFS is and like the area that I sit in.
Then another one. I was kind of wondering, earlier this year, the whole Silicon Valley Bank situation happened. I was just kind of wondering, like, what were you guys having to do during that time? And
Yeah.
yeah.
Again, I do not do anything with any regulatory side. That is very separate from me. So
Okay.
my work was not affected.
Okay.
Yeah.
I have one more question. Did you find the Federal Reserve like through a Meet the Firms event, or how'd you figure out, like, how'd you find that position?
I think I found it on Handshake.
Oh.
Yeah, 'cause I was going
Yeah.
through Handshake too, and I saw all the
Yeah.
positions open too.
I think I also forgot to mention that so when I finished my internship in 2021 where I did bank examinations, they a lot of the times large corporations have full-time roles that you can apply to at the end of your internship. So you can come back after your senior year and have a full-time job lined up. And they had this job. I kind of realized that bank examinations weren't for me, and that it was interesting, but I didn't particularly see myself in a full-time role after school. And this job sounded interesting. I really didn't have an idea of what it was. I kind of just like, you know what, let's try it. So I applied, got the role. Here I am today.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Yeah. Any other questions before I move on?
One more. I was just,
Yeah, of course.
what is the opportunities for career advancement in your position?
Yeah. You can, are at the Federal Reserve or just like in general, like as a financial, like a P&A analyst?
I was thinking at the Federal Reserve.
Yeah. I think in general, not just the Federal Reserve, but just in general, when working for a large corporation, I'd say it's pretty easy to do internal transfers. I think that if you show that you're interested in a position and that you are qualified to make the jump into that position and you network yourself into a position, I think it's fairly easy to move around. Like I said, it's not just the Fed. I think that's with any large corporation. So if you see yourself working at Google, and you land a job that's maybe not something that you see yourself doing, I really truly believe that if you can network yourself in, and I think that's the easiest way around a corporation, is like getting in one spot and slowly moving around. Awesome. Another question that I was asked is like, what skills and qualifications are essential for success in your field / particular challenges or aspects of your job that you find difficult or demanding? I wouldn't say my work is necessarily hard or demanding. I think the hardest challenge was just the learning curve and transitioning from school to full-time work. It's definitely very different. I think in full-time work, there's a lot of ambiguity. And whereas, for example, when you walk into the classroom your first day of the semester, usually your professor gives you a syllabus and you kind of know what to expect throughout the semester and the projects and the details of the project and what you need to do to get an A in the class. you don't really get a guideline from your boss of what to expect. Things just come up, work just comes up. And you kind of have to be able to be comfortable with being a little bit confused and being able to take tasks on and figure out tasks with little to no instruction. I think that was the hardest part of transitioning to full-time role. And again, that applies with like any job, was just being able to figure it on the way, and also taking initiative. I think, yeah, again, like I said, in school, you know exactly what you have to do to get an A, whereas in work, you kind of have to take initiative. You have to go a little bit above and beyond your work scope to stand out, I guess you could say. Perfect. Oh, yes, I see a hand.
Yeah, I was just curious if you had like a specific scenario like in mind, maybe like when you first started off in that transitional period where I don't want to say like it stuck with you, like a role that your boss put you in that felt like that was a challenge and you took the initiative and
Mhm.
you were successful in that. Was there anything that stood out that was like really memorable, or if you could have prepared to avoid that, you would have? Or
Ooh. I think one way that I took initiative was like I inherited a monthly reporting process that I everyone knew that it could be improved, but they didn't have time to work out the improvements or to figure out how a way to improve it. So instead of just taking on the monthly report and continuously doing it how it was previously done, I took the initiative to um, redo the report to make it more efficient and more digestible to the people that we send it out to. I think that's one example of taking initiative. And instead of just like your boss giving you work, like how can you pizzazz the work? How can you add the work? How can you make it easier for the team? Or yeah, I hope that answers your question.
yeah, thank you so much. That was great.
Of course. I'll move on to the last slide and then I'll go into more questions. I think after creating this presentation, and if I were to get like reflecting on some classes or skills that I definitely recommend to everyone here, is accounting. I use accounting so much. I know it's like the worst class I remember taking, financial managerial accounting, and like this is awful. But unfortunately, you use this like all the time. It's like the basis of your work, especially financial accounting, and understanding how the three financial statements work and how they work together and what each financial statement means is very, very important. And being able to extract information from the financial statements and being able to make suggestions based off the numbers is very crucial. If you have the opportunity to take a Tableau or Power BI course or familiarize yourself with these skills, or these tools, I should say, is really important. Tableau and Power BI it's not difficult. I taught myself on the job, but I do think that if you're able to create a dashboard using a large data set, again, that is just a huge skill that will set you apart. And prepare you for success. Excel, I said Excel, you definitely need Excel, and SQL and Python. And my last question is, how do you stay informed about current economic trends and financial market developments? And how do you incorporate this information into your analysis? So every morning when I go to work or when I log onto my laptop, I read the Financial Times and Wall Street Journal. I definitely recommend, I just read the headlines. And if there's a headline that sticks out to me, I dive deeper into it. I don't necessarily use economic trends and financial markets, like I said, in my analysis, but I do think that it's very important to stay up to date with current events. I just think that if you're sitting at the lunch table with your coworkers and these current events come up, it looks really good on your part when you come in with a well thought out opinion and you're up to date with these things. I think overall it just like looks good for you if you're able to contribute to the conversation and you know what's going on. Yeah, I'll pause there. That was the end of my presentation, so I'll stop sharing. And I will also drop the links to the Federal Reserve website so you guys can take a look. But yeah, I'll take any questions. Any more questions?
Yeah. Did you have to get your SIE to become a financial analyst?
No, you don't.
No. Do you
No,
recommend?
I think that's if you wanted to go into, if you wanted to be like into wealth management. Or I think you need that to be like a certified financial planner, a CFP. I think that's really helpful. Or if you're managing money for clients, I think you need that. But for corporate financial planning analysis, you do not need that.
Okay, perfect. And then my next question was, when you talked about building your network, who do you think you collaborate most with in your like day to day? Like, do you talk with like, let me think about this. Do you talk to like other economists, or do you talk to like mainly other financial analysts who are doing the same work as you?
Mm-hmm. I would say that the whole business line. So I talked to a lot about accounting because that's where we get our journal lines from or our financial statements from. And then we take that and say if like I see a mistake in sometimes accounting, I have to go back to accounting and say like ask them questions about the information that they inputted into the statements. I also talk to officers across the business line, like I said, to inform them about what's going on in their areas and inform them of like the financial health of their area that they're responsible for. I also talk to vendor managers who are in charge of contracts and understanding how much those contracts are and how they're being managed and how that incorporates into our spending and our budget. I'd say all aspects of the business. I hope that answers your question.
Oh yeah, I did. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course.
I don't know if there's any more questions, but
I have one.
Yes.
Do you know of any internship opportunities at the San Francisco Fed that are available
Yeah.
soon or in the future?
They do have internships. I want to say they're open now.
Okay.
They usually open right around this time. I there were like freshmen who were interns last summer. So don't be discouraged if you're a freshman or a senior. They do accept seniors into the program. So there's like all grade levels in the internship. So I definitely recommend applying. And also, like I said earlier, that there are 12 banks and each bank has their own internship program. So, if you want to go work for the New York Fed, that'd be really cool. You just apply. I want to say that they do help out with housing, and also all banks and private companies help out internships and post them up. So even if I definitely encourage looking at internships that are not just in San Francisco or the Bay Area.
Mm.
So don't just limit yourself to that.
Thank you.
Yeah, of course. I'm also dropping in I dropped in the chat just kind of like a brief overview of the Federal Reserve and kind of like where I took some of the information in my slide about the Federal Reserve System.
Perfect. Thank you.
Yeah.
all right, any more questions? If not, Sophie, thank you so much. This was
I
awesome.
have one for Sophie.
Of course. Thank you for having me. Please
Hey,
feel
Sophie,
free.
can you hear
Yes,
me?
I can hear you.
I got one quick question.
Yes.
Do you see yourself getting an Ivy League MBA at some point
Yes.
or something like that?
Yes.
What school do you want to go
Yes.
to?
I haven't decided, but I plan on studying for the GMAT the end of October. I have I'm telling myself after the wedding that I'm in, I'm going to start studying for the GMAT. I have the books and everything. I
So
do
where do
think
you want
that's
to go?
valuable.
Where do you want to go?
At least the top five. One
Yeah,
of the
like
top
what?
five.
Wharton, Columbia,
I
Stanford.
think Warren would. I want to go on the East Coast. I think Warren
Okay.
would be cool. Booth
Okay.
would be really cool.
Would you take NYU?
Kellogg. What?
Would you take NYU, University of Chicago?
I'd take Columbia. Columbia would be cool.
I think so. If you need a
But
letter
you
of
need
recommendation, let me know.
I'll come to you, Sousa.
Awesome. But now, what were you gonna say?
Oh, nothing. I didn't say anything.
But you have to, ace the GMAT.
Oh yeah, you have to ace the GMAT. You need a very high score for that.
Yeah, you
That's
gotta
the
ace
hardest
it.
part.
Yeah.
That's the hardest part.
Well, we wish you luck.
Thank you, Sousa. Well, thank you
Thank you.
everyone for having me. I
No, yeah.
hope
Thank
my
you.
spiel helped, and please feel free to reach out if you have any other questions or connect with me on LinkedIn.
No, yeah, this was super awesome. Thank you for making the presentation. It was, again, more than we expected. It was really cool. Thank you.
Of course. All right. Bye everyone. Have a great weekend.
Thank you.